Welcome back to Telling More Stories Told As podcast.
Hmm,
We like to really dive deep into the stories behind the things we think we know.
we do.
And today we're going to be talking about water.
Oh, very cool.
I know it sounds kind of basic,
Yeah.
but trust me, water has a past and a present and a future that are way more fascinating than you might think.
What's interesting about water is we often overlook it. We just take it for granted, but water is absolutely essential for life. It's been shaping our planet for billions of years.
Right.
And the story of water is intertwined with the story of life itself.
So let's start at the very beginning, the origin story of water on Earth.
Okay.
I mean, it covers over 70% of our planet's surface, so where did it all come from?
Well, that's a question that has puzzled scientists for a long time.
Yep.
What we do know is that Earth is actually constantly losing water to space.
Really?
It's a slow leak, but over billions of years it adds up.
Wait, so our planet is like slowly losing its water?
It is.
How is there any left at all?
Well, that's where it gets really cool. Scientists have been studying something called xenon isotopes. Think of them as tiny time capsules that hold clues about Earth's history, and by analyzing these isotopes, they've discovered that Earth probably lost an entire ocean's worth of water early in its life.
An entire ocean?
Yeah.
That's mind-boggling.
It is.
So how did we end up with the vast oceans that we have today?
Well, there are a few different theories. One theory points to ancient rocks called pillow basalts, which formed during underwater volcanic eruptions. And these rocks suggest that Earth had oceans as far back as 3.8 billion years ago.
Wow.
But there's also the cool early Earth theory, which proposes that our planet was much colder back then, possibly even frozen.
Okay, so we have evidence for both ancient oceans and a potentially frozen Earth.
Right.
How do those two ideas fit together?
It's a puzzle, and that's what makes science so exciting.
It is?
To make things even more interesting, there's recent research from 2020 that suggests Earth might have actually formed with enough water for oceans right from the start.
So maybe it's not a case of water arriving later, but of Earth being born with its water already there?
Exactly. Each of these theories has evidence supporting it.
Right.
And it's up to scientists to piece together the full story, but understanding water's origins is key to understanding how life arose on Earth.
That's so interesting. There's like a cosmic detective story with scientists as the detectives trying to crack the case.
It
I
is.
love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of stories, water itself has some pretty surprising properties, right?
Absolutely. What we might consider common knowledge about water is just the tip of the iceberg. Water behaves in some truly strange ways.
Okay.
And those quirks are crucial for life as we know it.
Okay, give me an example of one of water's weird quirks.
Let's talk about density.
Yeah.
We all know that ice floats on water, but have you ever thought about why that's so important?
No, not really.
It's not just about keeping your drinks cold.
Right.
It's about life itself if ice sank instead of floated.
Mm.
Imagine what would happen to lakes and oceans in winter.
Yeah, they would just freeze over.
They would freeze solid from the bottom up, killing most of the life within them.
Oh, wow.
But because ice is less dense than liquid water, it forms a protective layer on top, allowing life to continue thriving below.
Wow, that's a perspective I hadn't considered before. Something as simple as ice floating has huge implications for the natural world.
Exactly. And this leads us to another fascinating aspect of water. Its sensitivity to pressure, this sensitivity, is what creates those spectacular geysers you see in places like Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah, I've always been fascinated by geysers. They seem so powerful and unpredictable.
They are deep underground. Pressure builds up as water gets superheated. When that pressure exceeds a certain point, the water suddenly explodes into steam, creating a geyser eruption.
Wow.
And even deeper within the Earth's mantle, water exists in a state called supercritical water.
Supercritical water sounds intense. What's so special about it?
Well, imagine water that acts like both a liquid and a gas at the same time. Supercritical water has incredible dissolving power, and scientists are exploring its potential for eco-friendly chemistry and even generating clean energy.
So even in its most extreme form, water has surprising applications.
Ah.
I'm starting to see why we're doing a whole deep dive on this seemingly simple substance. And speaking of deep dives, if you're enjoying this exploration of water, be sure to hit that subscribe button.
Yes.
You won't want to miss our future episodes on Tell Me More, where we'll be uncovering the stories behind even more fascinating topics.
We will.
Now, getting back to water, there's another strange property we need to talk about, and that's its stickiness. It all comes down to something called hydrogen bonding.
Hydrogen bonding is like a tiny bit of magic holding water molecules together. These weak bonds are responsible for phenomena like surface tension, which allows those tiny insects called water striders to literally walk on water.
So those water striders basically surfing on a network of hydrogen bonds. Nature is so cool.
It is, and those same hydrogen bonds are what allow trees to defy gravity and pull water up from their roots all the way to their leaves.
It's like water has its own internal elevator system.
It does.
I never realized how much was going on at the molecular level, and it's all thanks to those tiny hydrogen bonds. It's amazing how something so small can have such a big impact.
It really is, and speaking of impact, water has played a huge role in shaping human civilization as well. Think about it throughout history. Civilizations have flourished around rivers and waterways.
That's true. It's no coincidence that ancient cities like those in Mesopotamia and Egypt were built near major rivers. Water was essential for survival, agriculture, and trade.
Absolutely. Water has always been a driving force in human history, shaping where we live, how we trade, and how our societies develop.
It's almost like water acts as a blueprint for civilization, a
Mhm.
foundation upon which societies are built, and that dependence continues today, right?
Yeah.
We still rely on water for everything from the food we eat to the products we use.
Without a doubt, in fact, did you know that a staggering 70% of the fresh water we use globally goes towards agriculture?
70%. That's incredible. It really highlights how crucial water is for sustaining our global population.
It does, and let's not forget the role water plays in countless industrial processes. It's used in manufacturing everything from the clothes we wear to the electronics we use every day.
It's easy to forget just how much we depend on water in our modern lives.
Yeah.
It really is the lifeblood of our planet and our societies. Okay, I'm ready for another fun water fact. Got anything else up your sleeve?
You bet. Did you know that the nagram, the unit of mass we use every day, was originally defined based on water?
Really? I had no idea. Tell me more.
Back in 1795 in France, they defined the nagram as the absolute weight of a volume of pure water equal to a cube of 1/100th of a meter and at the temperature of melting ice.
So they basically use a specific volume of water as a standard for measuring mass. That's pretty clever.
It is, and it connects to another interesting fact. For decades, the Kelvin scale, our standard unit of temperature, was defined based on the triple point of water.
The triple point, refresh my memory on what that is.
The triple point of water is the specific temperature and pressure where water can exist simultaneously as a solid, a liquid, and a gas. It's a unique point on water's phase diagram, and until recently it was used to define the Kelvin scale as exactly 273.16 K, which is zero point 0.01 degrees Celsius.
So our fundamental unit of temperature was literally anchored to a special property of water. That's pretty amazing. It really emphasizes how deeply water is intertwined with our understanding of the world around us.
Absolutely. But as much as water is essential and fascinating, we also need to address the challenges we're facing with it today. We hear a lot about water scarcity and pollution,
Yeah,
and unfortunately, those issues are very real and very serious.
that's a good point. We've been focusing on the wonder of water, but it's important to acknowledge the darker side of the story as well. Despite Earth being covered in water, access to clean, safe drinking water is a growing problem for millions of people around the world.
You're right. It's a stark reality that nearly 1 billion people lack access to safe, affordable water today, and water pollution further complicates the issue, rendering even more water unusable.
So we're essentially facing a double whammy: not enough clean water to go around, and increasing contamination of existing water sources. What are some of the main culprits when it comes to water pollution?
There are many sources, but some of the biggest contributors include industrial discharge, agricultural runoff, laden with pesticides and fertilizers, and untreated sewage. Even everyday activities like washing our cars or taking certain medications can have an impact on water quality.
I remember reading about pharmaceutical contamination in waterways, how the medications we take can end up in rivers and lakes. It's pretty unsettling.
It is a valid concern, and scientists are still trying to fully understand the long-term impacts of pharmaceuticals in our water systems. It underscores the interconnectedness of everything, how our actions on land can have far-reaching consequences for our water resources.
It's clear that we can't afford to take water for granted. It's a precious resource that we need to protect not just for ourselves, but for all life on Earth.
Absolutely. It's time we shifted our perspective and started viewing water not just as a resource to be exploited, but as a partner in sustaining life.
That's a powerful way to put it. Viewing water as a partner, it implies a sense of respect and responsibility that I think is often missing in our relationship with this incredible substance.
It's a shift we need to make. We want to ensure a sustainable future for everyone and everything that depends on water, and that's pretty much all life on Earth.
That's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
It really brings home the importance of understanding water and valuing it for the incredible substance it is.
I agree.
We'll be right back after a short break to continue our deep dive into the fascinating world of water.
Sounds good. And we're back, continuing our exploration of water. a substance that's both familiar and full of surprises. Before the break, we were talking about the very real challenges of water scarcity and pollution.
Right.
But even with those challenges, there's so much to appreciate about water and the role it plays in our world.
Yeah, you're right. It's easy to get bogged down in the negative,
Yeah.
but I think focusing on the positive can sometimes spark new ideas and solutions. So what else can we learn from water besides the fact that it's essential for life and full of scientific surprises?
Well, water also has a fascinating connection to human history and culture for centuries. People have been drawn to water, building their lives around it, and even incorporating it into their rituals and beliefs.
That makes sense. Water has always been a source of life and sustenance, so it's natural that it would become intertwined with human culture.
Mhm.
Do you have any specific examples of how water has shaped cultural practices?
Absolutely. Think about ancient civilizations like the Egyptians. Their entire society revolved around the Nile River. It was their source of water for drinking, irrigation, and transportation. They even developed elaborate religious beliefs and rituals centered around the Nile, believing it to be the source of all life.
That's incredible. They saw the Nile as more than just a river. It was like a sacred entity, a life giver. It's amazing how water can inspire such reverence and awe.
It really is, and even today, water continues to hold symbolic and spiritual significance for many cultures around the world, from baptism rituals in Christianity to purification ceremonies in Hinduism. Water is often seen as a symbol of cleansing, renewal, and spiritual rebirth.
It's fascinating how water transcends its physical properties and takes on these deeper meanings for people. It's a reminder that water is more than just a substance. It's a powerful force that connects us to nature, to history, and to each other.
Exactly. And speaking of connection, water also plays a vital role in connecting different ecosystems around the world. Rivers and oceans act as highways transporting nutrients, organisms, and even heat across vast distances.
So water is like a global circulatory system, keeping things in balance and allowing life to flourish in diverse environments.
You could say that, for example, ocean currents help regulate global temperatures, transporting warm water from the tropics towards the poles and cold water from the poles towards the equator. This constant circulation helps to moderate Earth's climate and create more stable conditions for life.
Wow. So water is not only essential for life on a local level, but it also plays a crucial role in maintaining the delicate balance of our entire planet.
Precisely. And let's not forget about the amazing diversity of life that exists within water itself. From microscopic plankton to giant whales, the oceans are teeming with a vast array of organisms, each playing a unique role in maintaining the health of these complex ecosystems.
It's mind-boggling to think about all the different forms of life that exist in the oceans, many of which we haven't even discovered yet. It's a reminder that we still have so much to learn about the world around us, especially when it comes to water.
You're absolutely right. And the more we learn about water, the more we realize how much we depend on it, not just for our physical survival, but also for our economic well-being, our cultural heritage, and even our spiritual connection to the natural world.
It's amazing how something as seemingly simple as water can have such profound implications for so many different aspects of our lives. It really makes you appreciate it on a whole new level.
I couldn't agree more. Water is a truly remarkable substance, and it deserves our respect and our protection.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of water, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the idea of shifting our perspective and viewing water as a partner rather than just a resource. Can you elaborate on what that means and why it's so important?
Of course, viewing water as a partner implies a shift in our mindset from one of exploitation to one of collaboration. It means recognizing that water is not just something we take from the environment, but rather a living system that we are a part of and that we have a responsibility to care for.
So it's about moving away from a mindset of dominance and control over nature, and instead embracing a more harmonious and sustainable relationship with the natural world.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we are interconnected with water and that our actions have consequences for the health of our water systems and the well-being of all living things that depend on them.
That's a powerful concept. So what are some practical ways that we can start to embody this idea of partnership with water in our daily lives? What can we do as individuals to shift our relationship with this essential substance?
That's a great question. There are many simple but effective things we can do to become better partners to water. For example, we can start by being more mindful of our water consumption. Simple habits like taking shorter showers, fixing leaky faucets, and watering our lawns less often can make a big difference in conserving this precious resource.
Those are great tips, and I think it's important to remember that every little bit counts. Even small changes in our behavior can add up to significant water savings over time.
You're absolutely right. And beyond reducing our personal water use, we can also make choices that support sustainable water management practices in our communities and around the world. This could involve advocating for policies that protect our waterways, supporting businesses that prioritize water conservation, or even just educating ourselves and others about the importance of water stewardship.
I love that it's a reminder that being a good partner to water goes beyond just our individual actions. It also involves engaging with the larger systems and structures that impact water resources.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that water is a shared responsibility, and we all have a role to play in ensuring its sustainability for future generations.
That's a powerful message, and I think it's a fitting note to end on as we wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of water. It's been an incredible journey full of scientific discoveries, historical insights, and thought-provoking perspectives.
It has been a pleasure exploring the wonders of water with you today.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights with us. It's been an enlightening conversation. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've learned something new and perhaps even gained a deeper appreciation for the incredible substance that is water. We're back for the final part of our deep dives into water. It's amazing how much we've uncovered about this seemingly simple substance.
It really is. It highlights how much we tend to overlook the everyday things in our lives. There are so many hidden stories waiting to be discovered if we just take the time to look.
Absolutely. And speaking of hidden stories, before the break, we were talking about the importance of shifting our perspective on water, seeing it as a
Yeah.
partner rather than just a resource.
Right.
I think that's such a profound concept, but can also feel a bit abstract.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific examples of what this partnership with water might look like in practice?
Well, one example is the growing movement towards rainwater harvesting. Instead of viewing rainwater as a nuisance or something to be quickly channeled away, people are starting to see it as a valuable resource that can be collected and used for things like watering gardens, flushing toilets, or even supplementing drinking water supplies.
That's a great example.
And
It's a simple yet effective way to work with nature rather than against it. Instead of trying to control water, we're finding ways to integrate it into our lives in a more sustainable and harmonious way.
Exactly, and there are many other ways we can partner with water. For example, in some communities, people are working to restore natural wetlands, which act like giant sponges, absorbing excess water during floods and slowly releasing it during dry periods. This helps to regulate water levels, prevent erosion, and improve water quality.
So it's about working with nature's own systems to manage water more effectively, rather than trying to impose our own artificial solutions.
Precisely. And it's not just about large-scale projects either. Even something as simple as planting native vegetation in our yards can help to improve water absorption and reduce runoff. Every little bit helps.
It's inspiring to see how people are finding creative and innovative ways to partner with water. It gives me hope that we can find solutions to the water challenges we face.
Me too. And I think it's important to remember that water is not just a scientific or environmental issue, it's also a social justice issue.
Yeah.
Access to clean water is a fundamental human right, and we need to ensure that everyone has equitable access to this essential resource.
That's a crucial point. We can't talk about partnering with water without addressing the issue of water equity and ensuring that everyone has the water they need to thrive.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, how our actions impact others, and how we can work together to create a more just and sustainable water future for everyone.
Well said. It's been an incredible journey exploring the world of water with you today. We've covered so much ground, from the origins of water on Earth to its unique properties, its impact on human civilization, and the challenges and opportunities we face in managing this precious resource.
It has been my pleasure sharing my passion for water with you and our listeners.
I think we've all learned a lot today, and I hope our conversation has inspired our listeners to think more deeply about their own relationship with water. It's easy to take water for granted, but as we've discovered today, there's so much more to this seemingly simple substance than meets the eye. It's essential for life. It's full of surprises, and it connects us all in profound ways. So let's all make a commitment to be better partners to water, both in our individual actions and in our collective efforts to create a more sustainable and equitable water future for everyone. Thanks again for joining us on Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast. We'll be back next week with another fascinating deep dive into a topic you might think you know. But trust me, there's always more to the story.
Always.